Hello everybody and welcome back to another modelled writing video. Today we are going to look at two task 1 questions. So task 1, you're presented with maybe a chart or a graph or a map or a table, and you have 20 minutes to report back about the features of the image that you've been given. So we'll be looking at two examples of those today. And as always, we will talk through the planning and we'll think about ideas, and then we will do the write-up as if we are in the exam itself. And along the way, you'll get some tips on how to score those high band scores, which is what we are looking for. Okay, so let's get stuck in then. The first task is going to look at a bar chart. Now, bar charts are quite common type of chart, and good to be familiar with them, definitely. Okay, so let's look at the question. The chart below shows the amount spent on 6 consumer goods in 4 European countries. Write a report for a university lecturer describing the information shown below. Okay, so the chart below shows the amount spent on 6 consumer goods. So we're thinking about 6 different products, maybe, in 4 European countries. Okay. And we need to write a report for a lecturer describing the information below. So we will report back on the information. We will make comparisons where relevant and compare and contrast as well. Brilliant. Well, let's have a look at the graph itself then. Here we go. Right, so we have our 4 European countries, and they have different colours that represent them on the bar charts. So we have Britain, France, the A should be before the N there, Italy and Germany. Okay, and then over here we have our 6 consumer goods: photographic film, toys, CDs, perfumes, tennis rackets and personal stereos. Right, and down here we have the number in £1,000 sterling. £1,000 sterling. Okay, so let's have a think about some initial ideas then. So we have Britain, which is Britain is spending the most in photographic film, and then that decreases throughout the categories. So the lowest is in personal stereos. Who else follows this trend? Which other country? We could say, Italy starts out with, ends with less than they did at the start, almost following the same pattern. So we could group Britain and Italy together, perhaps. What about Germany and France? What's happening there? France, we're going down, and then we're going up in personal stereo, so a bit of fluctuation throughout the categories there. Germany and Germany, what's happening with Germany? Quite similar range of spending throughout the categories, but nevertheless they are quite, there's no particular pattern here, lots of fluctuation. So I think for this question I'm going to group Britain and Italy together, and France and Germany. But you could also group together, if you wanted, on this y-axis the different consumer goods as well. So whichever you feel would be the easiest here. Okay, talking about grouping then, let's go to the the plan. So the plan is so important to help us stay on task, to help us stick to what we are thinking for our groups. That's one of the criteria for the marking. So yes, we will think of logical groups, and maybe we'll put Britain and Italy almost. I mean, they spend high amounts in for their group, for their country, in photographic film and toys. That's Italy's highest. Oh, just. It's difficult to view this one, isn't it, as it's a horizontal chart. So yes, we'll talk about that. And then in group 2, Germany and France, we have some fluctuation. So we'll discuss that. So an overview then. Let's have a think. We have Britain and Italy's spending, Italy's with the apostrophe there, spending is highest in photographic film. These are just notes, so we don't have to make full sentences. And toys. And Germany's and France's spending. Oh, we're going off. Fluctuates. There we go. That's okay. We can take that up a notch. Okay, brilliant. So we've got our logical groups, we've got our overview here, and yeah, I think it's time we can go into the write-up. So we have the question. We also have some words here that might help us. Even though this isn't, we don't have any sense of time, so we can't talk about how things change over time, but we could compare categories and draw on these words. So we have synonyms for decreased, stayed the same, increased, and you can use adverbs in conjunction with these to create a really nice sentence. Okay, so I've also put a pound sign here because I don't have that key on my computer, so that is just there for me to copy and paste to save time with this question. Okay. Right, so let's have a think then. What's the first thing we need to do? We need to paraphrase this, the first sentence. So the chart below shows the amount spent on 6 consumer goods in 4 European countries. Let's put that into our own words. The horizontal, we can add that because it's facing, it's on the horizontal axes. The horizontal bar chart shows the horizontal bar chart shows the money, instead of the amount, the money spent or maybe paid for 6 different, instead of consumer goods, we could say 6 different products in 4 European, it's hard to paraphrase European, so that's fine. Instead of countries, we can put nations. Okay, the horizontal bar chart shows the money paid for 6 different products in 4 European nations. Lovely. Okay, so now we want to go into our overview and just put a broad statement about what's happening here. So we can use a phrase like on the whole, in general, yeah, something along those lines. You can think of your own examples at home. Britain and Italy, let's talk about what's happening here. Spent the most for their country in photographic film and maybe on photographic film and toys. The expenses, another word for how much was spent, the expenses decreased in the other for the other items, perhaps. Okay, let's briefly touch upon Germany and Italy, and we can simply say Germany's, or maybe spending for Germany and Italy fluctuated. That's a good word, which means there's no pattern here. It goes up, it goes down throughout the fluctuated for each item. Okay, let's read this back. On the whole, Britain and Italy spent the most for their country on photographic film and toys. The expenses decreased for the other items. Spending for Germany and Italy fluctuated for each item. There we go, there's no pattern there. Okay, so let's go into our first paragraph, our first body of we have two, one for each group, and this is the first group here. So let's talk about Britain. So we could start by saying, well, Britain is actually spending the most for each item. So Britain having the highest expenditure on each item out of all the countries. Spent the most on photographic film. And then let's put in a number. So we're drawing the numbers from the chart now. Oh, 170 to 180, I'd say 172,000 pounds. £1,000. There we go. And I'm just going to use my pound sign here. Okay. Britain. So we're talking about Britain and how it's spending the most in photographic film. Right. Okay. Let's have a look then at what else we could draw about from Britain. Well, we actually have the same amount being spent on tennis rackets and personal stereos, from what I can see, roughly about 154,000. So if something particularly striking, we could say notably or strikingly. Notably, Britain had the same. It's spent is quite a tricky word to paraphrase. Had the same amount of money Britain spent the same amount of money on both tennis rackets and personal stereos. 154,000. And this was also Britain's lowest, the lowest amount that they spent. So Britain spent the same amount of money and the lowest amount on both tennis rackets and personal stereos at £154,000. Okay, so we're describing what's happening here. So we can now maybe move on to Italy. What's happening with Italy? Italy follows a similar pattern to an extent because obviously they don't share the same highest category of expenditure. So Italy follows a similar pattern to an extent. However, it is toys in which Italy it is toys that is Italy's highest highest product expenditure, not or maybe we can put the number in there, product expenditure at, so Italy is red and we have toys that looks like about 158,000. Put my pound in there. At £158,000, not photographic film. And then we could put Italy's amount for photographic film, which looks like 156 maybe. There we go, 1,000. Okay. So basically they follow a similar pattern, but they have different different categories in which they spend the most in. Right. I think that's good. We can, we've compared, we've contrasted. Now we could go on to Germany and France. So, on the contrary, on the other hand, really good phrases there. Germany and France follow a different trend. Let's follow a different trend. They fluctuate on spending. Germany's highest expenditure. Trying not to repeat ourselves, even though it's quite hard sometimes. Constituted tennis rackets. Let's have a look. Germany, it's quite close, but yep, tennis rackets took the most there. Tennis rackets, and then I like a bracket. We can say how much do they spend? Oh, nice, 150,000 right on the line there. We don't have to think too much about that one. Constituted or constitutes tennis rackets, 150,000. And then, what was France's? Photographic film, actually, like Britain. Whilst France's is, we're using present tense because there's no time on this, is photographic film. And then, what do we have? That's Britain. France is in blue, about 166. So it's similar to Britain. At 166,000. And then we can put similar to Britain. Okay, what else can we draw upon? Let's maybe include a line about the lowest amounts that they spent. So they have different categories for the lowest. We can say that they have different categories for or in which they spent the lowest. Maybe full stop. For Germany, it is, let's have a look. CDs. CDs. And then we can use a bracket again. That's quite nice. At 145. 145. And on the other hand, for France, it is tennis. Is it tennis rackets? Let's have a look. Tennis rackets, yeah. Tennis rackets. Oh, not request, rackets. Spelling is really important here. And how much are they spending on tennis rackets? France is in blue. Oh, it's this one here. About 144, I would say, £1,000. Okay then, let's read this back. We will read both the paragraphs here and edit as we go along. So start with this one. Britain, having the highest expenditure on each item out of all of the countries, spent the most on photographic film, 170,000. Notably, Britain spent the same amount of money and the lowest amount on both tennis rackets and personal stereos, £154,000. Italy follows a similar pattern to an extent. However, it is toys that is Italy's highest product expenditure at 158,000, not photographic film, brackets 156,000. On the contrary, Germany and France follow a different trend. They fluctuate on spending. Germany's highest expenditure constitutes tennis rackets, £150,000, whilst France's is photographic film at £166,000, similar to Britain. They have different categories in which they spend the lowest. For Germany, it is CDs, £145,000. On the other hand, for France, it is tennis rackets, £144,000. Okay, so let's have a look then and count the words. We're looking for a minimum of 150. Okay, so that brings us to 179 words. So just over the minimum there of 150, and you can see the pattern, the structure that we're following here. So we paraphrase to open with, we then talk about the overview, group 1 we talk about, and then group 2 we talk about. So we follow this same pattern in the task 1 questions. So once you have that structure, then you can practice with any type of question. And talking about any type of question, let's go into our next one, which is going to be all about multiple graphs. Now, this can be particularly intimidating, I would say, for students. You might not know where to begin. Completely understandable, because when you're presented with more than one, it is hard to know where to start, really, especially different types of graphs. So this is just even more reason to be familiar with the different types, because you never know what can pop up. Everything can come up, not everything, but lots of different types of graphs can appear. For example, this one today. So we'll talk through it together and break it down. Let's look at the question first, as always, or the task, what we have to do. In June 1996, an experimental flu vaccine was trialled in a large country town on females only. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. Okay, so we want to, let me get my pen, summarize, and we're being told how to summarize by selecting and reporting the main features, and we're being told to make comparisons where relevant. So not, for every single thing, only when it's particularly important or striking. Okay, so let's have a look at this question a bit more. So in June 1996, we're focusing on an experimental flu vaccine that was trialled in a large country town on only females. So not males, just females. Okay, I think it's time to bring in the data and have a look at what we are going to be dealing with this task. All right then, 3 different charts. Let's take them one by one, break them down. I know it can look intimidating at the start, but we will approach this like we do any task one, and we'll try and group them together. Okay, so got my spotlight over to the left here. Deaths from flu. We've got March to May before the vaccine was distributed, and we had 1 death from females. We've got the key here. And then June to August, we've now taken into account males, 2 deaths from in this time period, and 4 from females. Okay, now let's jump to the pie chart. So we've got a key here, and this pie chart is referring to female recipients, which means female receivers of this new vaccine groups, most at risk. So they are divided into different risk groups. For example, babies and children, over 65s, people who are hospitalized. And then we've got this group who was not given the vaccine, 28%. So this is in percentage. This is in numbers. Okay, now over to the right. Flu rates for males and females. And so we've got both genders here. This is a line graph. Number of cases of flu on the y-axis, and on the x-axis we've got the year, most of the year, not January but February we start in here. Okay, so initial thoughts then. It's different when you've got multiple charts. For the grouping, it is the easiest to group if you've got 3, say. What we would advise to do is maybe to group charts, 2 of them, which perhaps you have less to talk about, and then the next group can be focus on the chart that actually you can talk for quite a significant amount about. So in this case then, I think I'm going to group deaths from flu, this one here, with this pie chart for added information about the female group, because I think I can talk a bit more about the line graph here in its own paragraph. Okay then, now that we've thought about this, we can make some notes on our plan. Really important step. So I'm just going to note what we were just talking about. So let's talk about, we'll do this to the left maybe. Group 1, bar chart and pie chart. The general theme of both, more females died than males, and we'll bring in some statistics from the pie chart about the different groups within the female category who received the vaccine. Okay then, group 2, let's talk about the line graph. And more females died, and also more females contracted the flu in general as well. Okay, so the overview, we want a sweeping statement just to summarize everything that we're seeing really. In general, more females contracted and died from flu. Okay, so you can see then we are not worried about, we're still doing the groups, but this time we are grouping different charts together. That's how we'll approach this one in order to make it easier for us to tackle this. Okay then, let's go to the write-up. I think we're ready for that. We've got our question here and we've got some words, verbs and adverbs in order to help us with describing different charts here. Very useful for the line chart at the bottom, line graph. So what's the first thing we do? To open up, we need to paraphrase, and we need to paraphrase this sentence here. So in June 1996, that's very difficult to paraphrase. We want to stay accurate, so we're just going to say state the same. In June 1996, an experimental flu vaccine, a new influenza instead of flu. Vaccine again is difficult, so we'll keep that. Was trialled, was tested in a large country town, in a big, maybe countryside district, on women. Yes, on women. In June 1996, a new influenza vaccine was tested in a big countryside district on women. Okay, we've paraphrased to our best abilities, but we've kept the meaning, which is really important. So then we want to make our sweeping statement. A nice way to open this up is to say on the whole, in general, generally speaking. Not only did more females, we want to say they contracted, more females contracted the flu, but also more died than men. Oh, than men. And spelling, we're always checking, we're editing as we're going along. But also more men. Is there something else we can draw upon? Well, actually, flu rates did decrease after June for both men and women. So let's add that in. That's a point there. So strikingly, however, the cases of, or the number of people suffering with the illness decreased after June 1996 for both men and women. So more women were dying than men. So yes, more women were dying in June to August, but after June, the rates themselves, the flu rates, actually decreased. Okay then, so let's start with our bar charts and our pie charts. We're going to just pepper in information from the pie charts where relevant. But really we're going to focus on the bar chart here. So the bar chart, we can say what it provides, maybe to open up with. Provides information on the number of deaths, on the number of deaths from flu. There we go. Just a little opener to show what we're talking about here. Okay, so let's talk about before June, before the experimental flu vaccine was trialled. Before the vaccine was trialled, we can say, one woman or one female, we don't want to repeat ourselves too much, had died from flu. Let's compare this with after. After June 1996. After June 1996, this, maybe we can put a full stop here. Quite nice to break it up. After June 1996, this figure, this number, and we can use a word from here, maybe rose to 4 women dying and 2 males. Maybe we can say and in fact 2 males. Okay then, so let's link in the pie charts, the fact that these women were getting the vaccine. And yes, so we could say something like what's quite significant, we've got aged 65 years and over 65 years, sorry. The pie chart provides data on who received the vaccine. Oh, not I before E, E before I there. Goes against the rhyme. Who received the vaccine, and the largest majority or the largest proportion of women were over 65 years old. Then we're followed by people who are not given the vaccine, hospitalized, and babies and children. Another significant percentage of receivers of the vaccine. Oh, we've used received there. Percentage of females vaccinated were babies and children. And let's use a bracket. I like a bracket. 24%. So we're linking in, okay, more people died after the vaccine, and we can see that these different groups were quite a large percentage of people who actually received the vaccine itself. Okay, maybe we can make this clearer by saying after June 1996, when the vaccine was distributed, we go, linking the two ideas together, this number rose. Let's have a read back actually from the start. The bar chart provides information on the number of deaths from flu. Before the vaccine was trialled, 1 female had died from flu. After June 1996, when the vaccine was distributed, this number rose to 4 women dying, and in fact 2 males. The pie chart provides data on who received the vaccine, and the largest proportion of women were over 65 years old. Let's do a bracket. 30, I thought I put a bracket in there. Whoops. 35%. This is why editing is so important. Another significant percentage of females vaccinated were babies and children, 24%. Okay, so we've grouped these two together and fed back those that information and linked them. And there's nothing stopping us from, if it's relevant, we can use the pie charts and link it to the flu rates maybe as well. We'll see how that goes. Okay, let's dive into our line graph, which there is a bit more to talk about. So we can maybe we've used information, we've used data, figures on number of flu Number of flu rates are also, maybe we could say something like, also shed light on this topic, or can also be compared, maybe. Figures of number of flu rates can also be compared. From February to December 1996. There we go. So they followed quite a similar trend, really. Oh, and we're spelling February right. Yes. Both male and female flu rates followed a similar trend. And they significantly increased after April, we could say. Both significantly, I like that word, or sharply, or rapidly, any of those. Significantly surged after April. And they both reached their peak in June. Both reaching peak numbers in June. Okay. And we can use a bracket. So females were at 3,500 cases and males were, maybe 2,700, I would say, or 600. 3,500 cases for women and 2,000, maybe 600 for men. Okay, brilliant. Okay, let's have a look. We could, in fact, actually, both surged after April. Oh, we've repeated ourselves here. Let's do a full stop and add some information, I think. They reached peak numbers. Brilliant. So now we can talk about both male and female flu rates followed a similar trend. Both significantly surged after April. Women rose from April to May. They went from 1,000 to 3,000. Women rose by 2,000 cases in 1 month, April to May. Okay, so then we can talk about the peak. However, even so, after the vaccine was organized, perhaps we can say, more deaths occurred. However, double R. However, flu cases steadily declined. Yes, okay, maybe we can put just under they reached their, I think that's okay actually. Yes, we're edging to the word count here. We could go on, but I think part of the question is to pick and choose the best, not the best, but the most relevant information. So that's another thing you'll be assessed on, is how you can almost pick and choose which information you report back on. Okay, let's have a read. We've been editing as we go, but we'll just read over. figures 4 maybe, or maybe flu rate figures. Flu rate figures can also be compared from February to December 1996. Both male and female flu rates followed a similar trend. They significantly surged after April. Women rose by 2,000 cases in, we can say, just 1 month. They reached peak numbers in June. 3.5 cases, 3,500 cases for women and 2,600 for men. Even so, after the vaccine was organised, more deaths occurred. However, flu cases steadily declined for both men and women. I also want to add maybe that women's were always higher. Both male and female flu rates followed a similar trend, though women's were consistently higher. Okay. Oh, it's tricky to to fit it all in, isn't it? But that's okay. Right, let's check the words and see how we're doing. So that comes to 179 words. So the minimum is 150 there. So just a bit over. It's the temptation with multiple charts is to write a lot more because there's more information, obviously. But the skill is to just pick the most important parts of the information that we've been given. So I hope that makes sense, and I hope that multiple charts aren't causing stress for you. Hopefully that brings you confidence that you can tackle them essentially the same way as we tackle every question. We just group the charts together this time and compare and contrast as we would normally. Okay, well that brings us to the end of today's video. Thank you so much for listening today, and let us know if you have any questions as always, and we'll see you next time.